5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
A confirmed attack is taking place against the United States.
Okay.
Aliens from an unknown location have been reported in multiple states.
We are controlling transmission.
There is another world that awaits, far beyond what we can see and feel. A place that's anything but ordinary.
What you believe might not be. Step into the zone of the vast unknown. UFOs, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, conspiracies and cover-ups. And to the Parabnormal we go with Jeremy Scott.
We are live from the Oregon Ghost Conference in Seaside. Kind of a drastic change weather-wise from our last time we sat at this table. Of course, it is the coast, and we're used to a little bit of rain and wind here in the Pacific Northwest, but boy, it was really whipping, and there's just kind of that chill in the air. I don't know if it's the weather or if it's the ghosts or it's a combination of both. So I'm going to do this, if you're okay, with my coat on, because I feel more comfortable than that, doing it that way. I want to welcome our first guest of the day, Amanda Paulson, a paranormal investigator who is based in the Pacific Northwest. She got her start with traditional ghost hunting in 2008, and in 2019 created the blog Pretty Effin' Spooky. She has traveled across the U.S. and Europe investigating reports of paranormal phenomena and has been featured on numerous filming projects, including Lady of the Lake, which premiered here at the Ghost Conference in Seaside. Amanda, welcome to the program. Good to have you sitting here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. And I'm also wearing my coat because it is crazy outside. It
is chill in the air in March here in Oregon. It hasn't yet turned seasons. We have these mock seasons where you go winter and then winter lasts a little longer and we're waiting for spring and then it finally arrives here. But that doesn't matter to the ghosts and to the paranormal because they are seemingly with us all hours of the day and night, 12 months a year, 365 days a year. Would you agree with that?
I would totally agree with that. Absolutely. They are here with us all the time, when we know it, when we don't know it. Maybe not in the bathroom, though. I don't know. You know what? I think I'm wrong about that, though, because I watched a lecture yesterday that was about bathroom ghosts.
Right.
So they're there, too. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it, the bathroom is, where people go when they're not feeling well, and so, well,
makes sense.
The rest, as they say, is history. So prior to getting involved in ghost hunting, did you have ghostly or paranormal experiences?
Yeah, I started having paranormal experiences when I was about 7 or 8 years old. It followed me throughout my entire life, even though I was terrified of it. Yeah. I hated it. I did not want it to happen when I was 8 years old. By the time I was 18, I decided to join a ghost hunting team and figure out why it was happening to me, why I was afflicted by paranormal activity. Took a break from it throughout my 20s, partied, had fun, as we do in our 20s, and then in
different kind of spirits.
Different kind of spirit then. And then in 2019, started Pretty Effin' Spooky, and now this is what I do all the time. It's my passion.
So what happened when you were 8 years old?
When I was 8, I lived in what I call a haunted duplex. And in this haunted duplex, when I first moved in, I had a feeling it was haunted. I had a feeling there was somebody else there. And I wasn't predisposed to any paranormal media. There was no reason why I should be feeling that way. But then things started moving around at night. My dolls would move. I had a vase move on my dresser from one end to the other. I started having nightmares. It was just very traditionally haunted in this duplex. And then when we eventually moved, I thought it would stop, but it didn't. I continued to have paranormal experiences and realized that this was just something I was going to experience my whole life.
Did others experience much the same?
So a little bit in the haunted duplex. My mom did agree that there was some weird stuff going on, but my mom was also, totally dark topic to get right into, but my mom was an addict as well, so who knows what she was experiencing. I make light of that, but
no, it's an important point.
She had some stuff happening, and then later on, it was mostly just me. My family was religious. I grew up Baptist, and so they were like, it's demons or it's nothing. So yeah, I don't know if they were experiencing anything, but if they were, they didn't tell me.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to experience it alone.
Did you ever speak about what you were experiencing?
I did. Once I got into my teen years, I decided to start talking about it more openly, and then when I joined the ghost hunting team, of course, I spoke very openly about it, but not when I was a kid. No, I did make my mom switch me rooms though in that haunted duplex because I was afraid.
Did that help?
No, it continued happening,
right.
Which I think was really just indicative of the fact that I was sensitive, as people say. I'm doing air quotes for people listening, but I think I was pretty sensitive from an early age, and then, like I said, it followed me my whole life.
So it's followed you. So from the duplex, it went to another residence after that?
Yeah, and I say followed, like I use the word followed very loosely because it's not like one entity was following me, but I believe the phenomena as a whole followed me, or rather was always with me. So I don't think that specific ghost at this haunted duplex followed me to the other places that I lived, but I think that the phenomena continued journeying with me throughout the rest of my life. And now I'm into much more things than just ghosts. I'm into all of it.
So did it escalate?
It has had periods of escalation throughout my life. But I wouldn't say it escalated to like some huge level until I started really focusing my intent and my work on the paranormal in 2019, and then especially in 2020 when I start exploring high strangeness phenomena on the Olympic Peninsula as part of a documentary project that I did. And that is when the paranormal activity that I've experienced really kind of exploded for me, is when I started opening myself up to all high strangeness and the full spectrum of paranormal phenomena.
So what kinds of objects would move or be manipulated?
Well, when I was a kid, it was a couple dolls that I had, but I don't think that the dolls were haunted, and I think that's important to say. I think that whatever was haunting me or this duplex decided to move the dolls to get my attention, but I don't think that the dolls were haunted. A vase that I had moved, and then now I do have some haunted objects now that I
certified haunted objects.
Certified by me, whatever that means.
Right.
But yeah, I do have some haunted objects, though I think that actual haunted objects are rare and kind of few and far between. I think people are very quick to say that they have a haunted object, but maybe they are just haunted in themselves, and the ghosts like to use the objects to get their attention.
You're talking about noisy ghosts, maybe poltergeist activity, it sounds like, a little bit.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, poltergeist activity is typically a little less intelligent and less easy to communicate with, because poltergeist activity is like just moving things. But I think that these spirits were, and that also poltergeist activity typically happens. That's actually an apt comparison, though, because when I was a teenager, that would have been about the age that I would be experiencing poltergeist activity.
They say adolescence.
Yeah, adolescence, and like very liminal times, like when you're going through change, that's when you experience poltergeist activity. But I do also think I've been experiencing and interacting with intelligent spirits too that are less like poltergeist and more like an actual intelligent spirit.
So we're talking about apparitions. Have you seen those?
Yeah, I have actually never really seen a full-bodied apparition myself, I'll be honest. And I've seen things with my mind's eye. I've seen things in my head, but then later was able to corroborate that and know that it was real because of what I said out loud, and I was able to prove it. But as far as with my eyes and seeing a full-bodied apparition, I've seen some shadows, but I've never seen like a full-fledged, full-bodied apparition myself. I have some friends, some trusted people who have, but I haven't, and I'm starting to think at this point, I turn 35 next month, I may never see that. Like that might not be, that might just not be my journey, you know, that might not be something I'm capable of seeing. I see things in a different way.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're also part of a movie that premiered here at the the Oregon Ghost Conference. What's the name of that, and where is it streaming?
Yeah, so we showed The Lady of the Lake. The Lady of the Lake is a documentary that I filmed over the course of the last 4 years based out of the Olympic Peninsula. It's about a story surrounding Hallie Illingworth, a woman who was murdered and then thrown into Lake Crescent on the Olympic Peninsula. And it kind of follows my journey learning the history of Hallie Illingworth, the history of that crime story, and then also the paranormal phenomena that circles around the lake.
Let's get into more of that and the history as well when we come back from the Oregon Ghost Conference, speaking with Amanda Paulson into the Paranormal.
Have you ever heard the story of the Lady of the Lake?
I think it's a sign. I'm here.
I'm not
It
dead.
scared the hell out of me seeing a hand sticking up out of the water.
A hand sticking up out of the water. Welcome to the Oregon Ghost Conference in Seaside. We're here with Amanda Paulson. That's from the Lady of the Lake. I don't think it's the Lady of the Lake. It's just Lady of the Lake. And it's streaming where?
It is The Lady of the Lake.
Oh, okay.
That's
should have
okay.
gone with what I had the first time.
The Lady of the Lake is streaming on Amazon. It's on iTunes. It's on Google Play. It's everywhere. VOD, anywhere that you can rent movies.
All right.
Yeah.
And it takes place, you said, on Lake Crescent, which is up in the Olympic Peninsula. Kind of describe the area for us.
Yeah, so when you go onto the Olympic Peninsula from Seattle, you kind of enter onto the Olympic Peninsula, and you go onto this highway that brings you all the way around the peninsula. And on that highway, off of it, is Lake Crescent, which is this huge, beautiful lake. It's very Twilight-esque for any vampire fans out there. It's very beautiful, very rainy, rainiest place in the U.S. So, yeah, it's very spooky out there. It's very cool.
And so that creates kind of a mystical backdrop, I guess, for this story.
Yeah, yep. There's a lot of phenomena that happens on the Olympic Peninsula that isn't just ghost related. So I focus on the ghost of Hallie Illingworth, like I mentioned before, but the Olympic Peninsula has a lot of high strangeness claims. It has Sasquatch, it has Bat Squatch sightings, as UFO sightings, some of the highest UFO sightings in the country. So,
are all of those phenomena involved in the story told in The Lady of the Lake?
No, I mention it briefly in the documentary. I mention the high strangeness claims, but I do not get to venture into that side of the peninsula. Hopefully one day, though.
So you focus more on the hauntings?
I focus entirely on the haunting of Hallie Illingworth and her archetype, the Lady of the Lake. So people have reported seeing the Lady of the Lake at Lake Crescent in different areas doing different things.
As we said, like what, popping up out of the water?
Well, that is actually how her body was found. So she was murdered in 1937, and her body floated to the top of the water in 1940 because her body had saponified, which means her fat turned to soap, a soap-like texture, and it made her float to the top of the water, and 2 fishermen found her by a hand sticking out of the water.
Interesting. And so are people saying that they encounter her spirit on the lake?
Yeah, many people have encountered her spirit. They've either seen her on the side of the highway, they've seen her standing on the lake, they've seen her floating on the lake, and they've seen her in Lake Crescent Lodge as well, which is where she used to work.
Interesting. So you joined a ghost hunting group. Why did you do that? And tell us about those experiences.
Yeah, in 2008, I joined a ghost hunting team in Montana to try to figure out why I was experiencing paranormal activity my entire life. And that experience taught me how to run very professional paranormal investigations. I learned all about tech. I learned all about doing private residences and businesses. And it was a very valuable experience. But then later on now, as I've been pretty effing spooky, I do everything entirely on my own.
So what does a professional investigation look like, or what doesn't it look like?
Well, I am somebody who does not think that there are really any rules to any of this, but of course, looks very respectful, and a professional investigation will typically look like keeping a log or a data log of the activity happening, looking up the history of the location and the history of the paranormal claims. And so when you're doing a paranormal investigation versus like a ghost hunt is more thrill-seeking, and a paranormal investigation typically comes from a place of wanting to solve something or wanting to really present some evidence of something happening.
Use a technique known as automatic drawing. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yep. So I also do psychic channel drawings that I saw on my website, and I utilize automatic drawing doing that. And in a lot of my investigations, it's something I'm super passionate about.
And how did you come across that?
So I've been an artist for about a decade, and I realized in my art that I was also kind of channeling and letting my hand sort of freely draw around the paper sometimes. And I realized that I could use that as a channeling method to contact spirits and let them draw through my own hand.
So they take control?
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, kind of. I would say I still remain some autonomy while drawing, but I also kind of enter a state of trance and just let it happen. So I would say it's half spirit-led and half led by myself.
So these drawings have some sort of influence, you
Absolutely.
could say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that comes out in what you're actually, in the artwork itself?
Yeah, so it'll come out kind of like scribbles and sort of weird and abstract looking, but I also use scrying, to look in the scribbles and look in the mess and find other images that are in there as well. So I love using that as a technique to bring forward more detailed messages.
How would you explain psychic channeling?
For me, psychic channeling involves entering into a state of trance, so that's just a different state than we're typically living in, like right now, and then bringing forward messages from the other side and letting them kind of use me as a way to speak and communicate.
And is this something that you help others, say, to speak with loved ones, deceased, departed loved ones?
Kind of, but I do it a little bit differently, and I will oftentimes use these techniques to be able to read situations similar to how a tarot reading does. So I don't always contact spirits of loved ones or even the dead at all, but I will journey through the subconscious of the living to try to pull out messages that they need to hear at the time. And that's not always from somebody who's died.
You've talked about synchronicities right here at the Ghost Conference, is that correct?
Yeah, that's what my lecture was about.
You found some synchronicities between some of these high strangeness events?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel that synchronicity is a language in itself, and it's often trying to communicate to us how all high strangeness claims are actually interconnected.
Interesting. And how do you think they're connected? Or
I think, personally, I believe that phenomena, so that being UFO phenomena, cryptid phenomena, and ghost phenomena, I think they're interconnected. I often think that we are interacting with phenomena that is maybe multiple things at once. For instance, if you're experiencing Sasquatch on the Olympic Peninsula, sometimes I think that that's maybe actually the ghost of a being that was once on the Olympic Peninsula and not a flesh, like actual animalistic thing. But I know a lot of Sasquatch people will hate that, and there's a lot of opinions on that in the high strangeness community. It's just something I'm super passionate about.
They can hate it all they want, but they haven't presented a body.
Yes.
So we have to think outside the box. And one of the popular terms these days is non-human intelligence, NHI. It kind of sounds like you're talking a little bit about something that's not entirely human.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And that's just something I always like to bring up because I was a ghost hunter back in 2008, and I still definitely am a ghost hunter, but now I'm more interested in bringing all of the phenomena together and also observing how the community observes the phenomena and how we can all come together to try to find some answers, because I think that we've been kind of found a discord or been at odds for too long, and that's why we haven't found more.
Right. So what kind of research has been done into the synchronicity of paranormal events?
So my research about synchronicity?
Yeah, or other research that you're aware of?
Yeah, so it starts with Carl Jung, who is the person who coined the synchronicity term. And then a lot of people have done a lot of projects regarding synchronicity. A really popular documentary series is Hellier, who talks about synchronicity and its intersection with high strangeness. And then my own research around synchronicity is around manufacturing synchronicity on cue. So I'll do a lot of experiments where I will try to create synchronicities for other people on cue so that then we can use those experiences to help charge or offer like a soft spot to the other side and make it easier for us to communicate.
Excellent. Amanda, tell the audience where they can find you.
I can be found at Pretty Effin' Spooky on all social media platforms and prettyeffinspooky.com.
And The Lady of the Lake is streaming where?
Amazon Prime, Google Play, and iTunes.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us live here from the Oregon Ghost Conference in Seaside. She is Amanda Paulson. I'm Jeremy Scott, and we'll continue right after this.
Hi.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
There is a hallway here at the convention center that we were always told was haunted.
We had some motion lights that would go off.
We were getting told to get the F out. Groups that come in and provoke, they get the spirits all worked up, and then they leave. But the people who have to go and work in those locations now have to deal with angry spirits.
Very true.
The bowl of pretzels lifted up off the bar, dumped on the head of one of the guys who was heckling her, and a beer in front of the other guy lifted off the bar and poured on his lap.
She's a ghost that shows up once in a while and kind of scares people.
The truth is far stranger than we'd like to believe. You're headed somewhere between the paranormal and abnormal. Into the Parabnormal.
Those are some of the sounds from the Oregon Ghost Conference that we had last year. We talked with so many wonderful people. We take a snippet from each of one, so you'll become a soundbite next year. Pete Orbea is with us here from Port Gamble up in Washington. He actually leads their ghost walks and investigations, the coordinator for the Port Gamble Ghost Conference, member of the extended research team of PRI, Paranormal Research and Investigations, as a researcher and investigator. And, of course, you work with other teams and investigators as well. But you're also a psychic medium. Is that correct?
That's what they tell me. That's what the universe tells me.
Right. And so was it the Oregon Ghost Conference way back when, in another lifetime, that really started this journey for you?
Yes, the Oregon Ghost Conference did start my journey into this psychic work. The journey was in 2013. Went back when the conference was in Oregon City, which was really fun doing the tours around there and walking around and feeling that place out. So yeah, it started in 2013 when I had my first psychic reading ever. I walked by a gentleman's booth. I see him standing right over here, Seth Michael. And he had a conference special for readings, and I thought, what the heck?
Got nothing to lose?
Let's give it a try. I was pretty skeptical of getting a reading in the first place, and so I sat down with Seth, and he pretty much blew my mind and changed my world.
Were you working for Port Gamble at that time?
Yeah, I started working for the town of Port Gamble in 2011. And so I was at the Oregon Ghost Conference as my first time there to promote the Port Gamble Ghost Conference. And so that's why I was going there and didn't really realize I was about to enter a new part of journey in my life.
So did you start the Ghost Conference before you had a paranormal experience?
Well, I didn't start the Ghost Conference. It started a year before I started working there.
Okay.
From one of our former town managers. Was very interested in the paranormal, and she had herself lived there for many years and experienced many things, and so that's kind of how it got started. There were so many people reporting experiences all over the town that she said, hey, let's get some people to come in and talk about it. And so they brought in some speakers, and I started working for the town and kind of came into it the second year. I'd already had plenty of paranormal experiences in my life. So I was an open skeptic at that point in my life, joining that ghost conference, and then came to the Oregon Ghost Conference and left a changed person.
Where is Port Gamble?
Port Gamble is directly across Puget Sound from Seattle, so we're in Kitsap County. We're more specifically in North Kitsap County, right near the Hood Canal Bridge. Most people have heard of Paulsbo or Port Townsend, and we're kind of in between those.
Is the town haunted?
Well, if you ask me, I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
If you ask most people, they're going to say yes, I think. Most tourism maps I ever see of Washington, there's a little ghost icon over Port Gamble on all the maps. So, yes, I think people think it's haunted. There's reports in the vast majority of the buildings that are there.
The Walker Ames
house is probably the most notable.
Yeah, the most notable, I was going to say.
Yeah, the most notable house. It's definitely the most unique-looking house in the town, built in 1888, finished in 1889. It has probably the most reports of activity, but I'll say it's probably because we have the most access to that place. Nobody lives there.
So we pissed off the ghosts a time or two, and they make themselves known on a regular
yeah, we call them our long-term tenants or
Okay.
our long-term residents. But specifically in that house, nobody lives there because it needs, full plumbing rework and everything. There's no certificate of occupancy. So we have the most access to that one because it's not rented.
Right. What kinds of things have happened there?
Well, you name it. I've personally witnessed full-bodied apparitions, footsteps, voices. I've been slapped on the rear end a few times.
Did it leave a mark?
No, never left a mark. So I've never been scratched or pushed on the stairs or anything like that. I've run into somebody that I couldn't see. I've had direct communication with spirits where they're answering questions directly to me. But yeah, you name it, it's happened. The house is probably most well known for the amount of audio that comes out of it.
Are these coherent conversations?
Some of them, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I would say there's definitely a mix of a haunting of where it's somebody just saying something and not really aware that we're there. But in a lot of cases, they will say my name. A lot of spirits there ask for me specifically. And you can end up having a conversation.
So it's a case of Pete and repeat.
Totally, and three-peat.
I love it. Any threats? Have you ever felt intimidated or scared or run out of area for your life?
I have been freaked out in there. Most of the time, I feel pretty comfortable in the house or really anywhere in the town. I'll say that one evening I was in the attic by myself. It was a little after midnight. I was doing a Facebook Live to promote the Ghost Conference, and I just had that all of a sudden feeling of somebody's watching me, and I should not be here right now. And when I turned to look at where the exit of the attic was, there was a pair of bright red eyes looking at me. And as soon as I saw those, I had that rushing feeling of, I am not supposed to be here right now.
Why is it always red eyes?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I really don't. Unless it's like they know red triggers fear in the living or something,
Right.
maybe. And that's what
The color
they
of
choose.
blood.
The color of blood, yeah. I don't know what it is, but it freaked me out.
Yeah, absolutely. I was walking by you last night. You were doing one of your tours here in Seaside, and
Yeah.
you were playing some EVP clips. What have you captured on audio up in Port Gamble?
Well, I mean, I've captured a pretty good gambit of types of audio from... I've captured... There's a guy in Port Gamble that I kind of call him... He's the jabberer. I don't know. He sounds very jowly. You can never tell what he says, but it's... Blah, 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 blah. It's kind of what he sounds like. I've got clear... One of the clips I was playing last night was I asked a question if somebody used to live across the street, and somebody straight up answered me, "Yes, Pete." Very clear. And so you get very clear things. I've got whistles, low. We've gotten foreign language voices coming through in foreign language. So kind of the whole gambit from, there's been, a lot of Class A EVPs, very clear, loud. There's also been a lot of really garbly stuff that's really quiet, but there's something there to it.
All right, so in your childhood, you had experiences, right?
Yes. Yes. My mother waited until a few years after I discovered psychic mediumship to tell me that I used to talk about a tall shadow man in the corner of my bedroom when I was real little. And
do you remember that?
I do not really quite remember that.
Okay.
I can see a visualization of it, but I think I have associated that now with my great-grandfather being very tall and lanky. When I was 7 years old, driving through northern Arizona, heading to Sedona for the summer, my grandfather was driving. I was sitting in the middle. My grandmother was taking a nap next to me. We're driving along, and all of a sudden 2 Native American warriors appeared in the middle of the highway. My grandfather slammed his brakes on, and as soon as we got to them, they just vanished. Poof, they were gone. My grandpa looked at me, and he's from a different generation, says, "Did you see them old Indians in the road?"
Yeah.
And I said, yes. And that's when I thought, oh, my gosh, it wasn't just me that saw it.
All right, when is the Port Gamble Ghost Conference coming up?
Ghost Conference is November 7th through 9th this year. So it's Veterans Day weekend.
And portgamble.com?
Portgamble.com is where you can find it.
Thanks, Pete. That's Pete
Thanks,
Orbea
Jeremy.
from the Oregon Ghost Conference in Seaside.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Yeah, that was good. Anytime.
Live from the Oregon Ghost Conference here in blustery Seaside, Oregon for the 13th annual. I'm Jeremy Scott. Joined by Michael Cain now, a hypnotist, hypnotherapist, registered nurse who has studied the occult and religion and has experience in both stage and practical magic. In addition to a successful hypnotherapy practice, Michael has also performed for major cruise lines and been a headliner in Las Vegas. You know, Michael, I used to be a magician once.
Okay.
I used to do the cups and balls.
Yep.
And the cut the rope in the half. I used to have a dove pan.
Yeah.
I used to light things on fire. It wasn't my calling. How'd you get involved in it, though?
So as a kid, I got into doing exactly what you're talking about, doing the stage magic and all the things. And as time went on, I was an avid reader. I had come across a book on hypnosis in the public library back in the days when you used a card catalog. And that always stuck with me. And I've dabbled in all sorts of things over the years. And about 27 years ago, a friend of mine became a hypnotherapist, was a little nervous about actually performing as a therapist, needed a guinea pig. I said, well, I don't think I can be hypnotized, but sure, we'll give it a shot. And woke up an hour later. I'm apologizing because I think I've slept. She's like, you were talking the entire time. I'm like, no, I was not. She goes, look at that picture. And I look at the picture, and I swear the lips on the picture moved. I was actually supposed to hear an audible sound, but I didn't. But I saw the lips move, and I'm like, I must learn to do this thing. So I became a hypnotherapist after that.
Right, so you did stage magic?
Yeah, I did that as a kid. Up and through my teens, I did stage.
And then what do you do now?
My main job, I'm a psychiatric nurse.
Okay.
At Oregon State Hospital. Oh, probably shouldn't say that.
Oh, okay. At a hospital.
At a hospital in the state. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that clarification. Is that place haunted?
That's the rumor. I have not personally experienced anything. I've had people tell me that they've had strange going-ons. A lot of our buildings are newer, but some of the old buildings on campus, there are some stories out of, including a nurse who retired that said, I'm really going to miss seeing that gal at 6 p.m. doing rounds when everybody else is in the nurse's station. Yeah. And there would be nobody on the floor in that moment.
So is it more of a case that the people are haunted? Or possessed?
Well, I wouldn't say possessed, but yeah, there's a number of things, and the energy there, it can be very, very strange at times. But for the most part, it's pretty quiet.
How did your fascination with the paranormal begin?
Oh, goodness. I've always thought it was cool. Yeah, ever since even as a child, it's Holzer's books were available in my school library, in grade school of all things. So I've always had an interest, and I've always thought anything that was new, different, strange. I was never that kid that just, football and all that. If it was odd, I was into it.
Who's Bridie Murphy?
So Bridie Murphy is out of the 50s. It was a case of accidental past life regression. And as the story goes, and there's some people that claim it's been debunked, but as the story goes, the guy accidentally regresses this woman. She says she's from Ireland from several hundred years ago before. Her name was Bridie Murphy. She talks about her life. And it's a series of sessions that were done exploring this person's life, and many of the details of this person's life were able to be verified. There is a question as to whether or not the person had pre-knowledge now, but back in the day, everybody just assumed it was what it was, and that's really kind of what kicked off the whole past life regression through hypnosis.
Are you personally a believer of past lives?
I am agnostic. I don't know if I believe it or not. I do know that every time I've done one, it has been therapeutic for the person I work with.
Now, when you say done one, what is that?
So I do past life regressions either as for individuals or as groups. We've even done come as you were parties where we take everybody, hypnotize them, bring out their past life, and let those personalities interact. And it's always been some sort of benefit, and I've seen enough strange coincidences to really make me wonder what's going on, where somebody will tell me, this happened just the other night here, they told me that they have a physical condition where they can't burp. And I said, do you know what that's from? And he's like, no idea. Doctors just say it's this thing, blah, blah, blah. We do the past life regression, and he comes back and goes, in my past life I had stomach cancer. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting.
Something.
Or people will have birthmarks, and then in a past life, that's where they had a wound of some sort. And again, is it probative? It's interesting. It's fun. And people, like I say, people usually walk away with a improvement in their life.
Certainly. So you use hypno-regression?
Yeah, hypnosis, yeah.
In order to tap into someone's past lives?
Correct, yeah. You take them back through time, you take them back before they're born, and see where they land.
And how does that work?
It's using your imagination, using your sense of focus. It's an altered state of consciousness. And it just like doing any other kind of therapy or doing what I do on stage where you cluck like a chicken, bark like a dog. And the real key for any of this is to work what we call clean, where I do not accidentally lead or suggest to you what it is you're going to experience. I let you come up with it, not me.
And this is not something that's set up like a planted audience member for a magic trick. This is spontaneous. This comes from somewhere.
Correct, yeah. It would be very, very difficult to do this as a plant because I do it with an entire room full of, so here at the conference, we'd have 15, 20 people in the room, and we do it with everybody all at once. So, yeah, no, it's not.
Does everybody experience some sort of result?
No. Some people just get very relaxed. A few people won't go under, and that's usually my fault because I haven't made them comfortable enough to go under. Anybody can be hypnotized. It's really a matter of making them feel comfortable and safe enough to allow the experience to happen.
What's the wildest thing that's happened on stage during one of these events?
Oh, wow. I have had... yeah, I think the weirdest one was I did a come as you were party and had several people that did not know each other, and they were interacting and calling each other. They hadn't actually said their name, their previous name, but they're calling each other out, and they had known each other in that past life, and did not know each other in the current world, and that was just bizarre.
Well, they may have left here as new best friends.
Yeah, I think so.
Do you think that this can help with individuals' trauma that they may carry over, baggage, so to speak, from a previous life?
Yes, I had a client who was terrified of water, and we did I was very frustrated because I couldn't solve the problem, so I kind of went for broke and did a past life with her, and in her past life, she had passed away from drowning. And when I brought her back to the here and now, she's like, oh, okay, well, that explains it, and leaves. And 4 years later, I get an email from her going, oh, by the way, I'm on the women's sailing team in college, and I'm trying out for the Olympics. And she was terrified of water prior to walking into my office.
It sounds like it can put people a little bit out peace.
Yes, yeah, and whether that is something that actually happened back then and they are brought it forward, or if it's just their subconscious saying, here's how I'm going to rationalize this so I can move forward, I don't know. And I'll be honest, kind of don't care because it's beneficial.
How do we get in contact with you?
You can get the easiest way to get through me is through Facebook for our NOPE page, which is our paranormal group, Northern Oregon Paranormal Explorers, or through Gigmasters and just look for Dr. Feelgood.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Michael Cain, thank you so much for joining us here live from the Oregon Ghost Conference in Seaside. I'm Jeremy Scott.
Don't venture too far. You might not make it back into the Parabnormal. It's okay to hold hands. You never know what might come up from behind. Into the Parabnormal.
Our broadcast continues from the Oregon Ghost Conference here in Seaside for the 13th annual. I'm Jeremy Scott. We're joined next by Tammy Conrad, who has over 27 years of experience in helping people understand and resolve issues surrounding paranormal activity, and also a lifetime of experience of issues surrounding paranormal activity. She has been a counselor and coach officially for almost 3 decades. We talked a little bit about trauma in the last segment, and there are people who suffer trauma from paranormal events, correct?
That is correct. I haven't met a lot of people with paranormal events who have not had a history of trauma.
And what are we talking about?
It could be anything, because the perception of trauma is how the person's body responds to what they went through.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be a slight from when they were a child. It could be something big from, sexual assault or abuse, or it could be bullying from school. There are so many different avenues. For some children who come to adults, it could have just been something that was spoken to them at an impressionable time in their life, and they held that negative self-talk and allowed it to limit and sabotage the rest of their life.
Have you experienced trauma from the paranormal yourself?
Yes.
What happened to you?
When I was 4, and I kind of touched on it Friday, when I was 4 years old, I was asleep in bed at night, and our house was very haunted. I was asleep in bed, and I had to get up and go to the bathroom, and it's one of the earliest memories that I have. I was trying to get out of the bed, and I couldn't. All 4 sides were blocked. It was like there were walls around it.
Sleep paralysis.
Probably. So what I've learned since then is a lot of people who have those experiences, whether they've seen shadow people, sleep paralysis, touched by a ghost, whatever that paranormal experience may be, they develop OCD patterns. And so for me, my OCD pattern that manifested was pathways. I absolutely have to have my pathways clear at all times. Even now at 57, when you bring a package in, you don't put it in the middle of the floor, you put it by the wall. You can't block my pathways. And I was probably 45 before I realized that those are picked up. And the more I talk to people who have had those experiences as children, I find these little OCD tendencies with them. I have a friend who washes her hands 3 times every single time. And when I got talking to her when she was about 5, she had the experience of a ghost or an entity grab her hand. And when she pulled it back and screamed, her hand to her felt slimy. So from that moment on, she washes her hands 3 times, every time. And so we're looking, especially as parents, watching our children, when they start developing an OCD pattern and they're telling you they're experiencing things, then that might be the time to look into getting some investigative assistance.
Mm-hmm. So is that where you might help out?
Yes.
And what is a session, I guess, to entail? For particularly somebody who's inexperienced paranormal.
So we have two pathways. We have secular and non-secular. And so because I am state licensed, I have to keep those boundaries exceptionally clear. And so when people are talking to me about those experiences, I have to really put that disclaimer out. I'm not talking to you as a licensed professional counselor. I'm talking to you as someone who has experienced these other things and has a lot of training in this area. So the first things, we start ruling out mundane. I mean, I'm always going to rule out the mundane.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're hearing things run across your ceiling, do you have mice? Do you have squirrels in your attic? Those kinds of things. We're always going to, if you're just moved into a new building and you're hearing voices or having hallucinations, we're going to, you know, have you run the EMF, the EMP through your house, because a lot of like older houses and trailers always put the electrical box above the bed. And so you're going to experience those kind of things if you have EMP sensitivity. So we want to rule out the mundane first and then move forward and see what's left.
Interesting. Because not everything is paranormal.
That's correct.
You find that some of this can be explained with a rational explanation?
A lot of times it can.
Right.
I mean, and then when we also look at other experiences, all of the energy that we put out, when we look at hauntings that resemble like poltergeist or stuff, we always have, you know, teenagers or negative energy or drama or trauma or things like that going on in the household, and you've got all that energy building up. Essentially, it has no place to go, and it can manifest into its own kind of identity, and there are ways to clear that out without necessarily going through mental health professionals at all times. Sometimes you do need to. So you have to look at what's going on and how to clear up that manifestation.
Would you say that true paranormal cases are rare?
I think they're...
Or the minority, maybe?
I don't think that they're rare. I think that they're misrepresented many times. Mm-hmm. Because if you are having a true paranormal experience and you don't understand what is going on and your friends and family are not experiencing the same things, most likely you're just going to be referred to mental health. Right. And they are not going to be able to take into consideration any kind of paranormal events.
Right. So can we be the targets of ghosts? I mean, do they go after people?
I believe they do in certain situations.
Yeah.
I find that with the people that I've encountered, most of it they've kind of brought on themselves by doing unsafe practices without proper knowledge, skill, or experience with them.
So how do they interact with us, or maybe interfere with us?
The interference can resemble mental health illnesses such as bipolar or schizophrenia, and it can also cause medical and physical concerns. So if you have a loved one who has passed, and they don't mean any ill harm towards you, mm-hmm. but just say, for example, they had arthritis in their knees, and they're attaching to you because they miss you and they know that you miss them, or you're holding them somehow because you're not able to get through that grief, you might find yourself having those, knee problems, those manifestations. The same with like drug and alcohol concerns.
Sure. So how can someone contact you if they want to know, and maybe they're in the market for talking with somebody about what's happened to them from somebody who's experienced it themselves? That was a ghost, by the way.
So for right now, I'm just really on Facebook, and so just through my personal page. I don't have a website at this time.
Do you take consultations through that method, or?
I do sometimes.
Okay.
And I have a lot of referrals, friends who know friends, because I do work a job that's 8 to 5, and I have to keep those clear lines
separate.
Because,
yeah. All right, Tammy Conrad, thank you so much for joining us here from the Oregon Ghost Conference. I'm Jeremy Scott, and we will continue our broadcast live here from Seaside at the 13th Annual Oregon Ghost Conference right after this. Thank you so much. Alrighty. From the Oregon Ghost Conference in Seaside, I am Jeremy Scott. Shana Madsen joining us, Reiki master, hypnotist, energy medicine practitioner, lifelong affinity to the paranormal, I understand. How'd that begin for you?
Very accurate. I was raised in a very haunted house. It never really stopped. I ended up working for the medical examiner, and I realized I still had gifts at that point in my life. And then I lost my brother, and I had an experience with him where I decided I really needed to be able to talk to him whenever and hear him when he talked to me whenever. So, and also for my healing, I started out with Reiki, then I went to hypnosis school, shamanic school, many different adventures on my healing journey, and it just turned into I wanted to help other people with the things that had helped me.
And so what does that entail? When someone reaches out to you, they say they've had a paranormal experience, what is your role?
For that, I have done a documentary called Parasense, The Naked Experiments.
Oh, you were involved in Ross and Chad's.
Yeah.
So you didn't take your clothes off, did you?
I mean, that will never be aired or talked about.
Oh, it won't be talked about, okay.
Yeah.
So that's
Whoops.
a yes.
Yeah, I took one for the team because if I'm asking other people to undergo experiments like that, I felt like I should know what it felt like. But it wasn't anything that would ever be aired.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you willing to tell us, like, what happened?
Yeah, we were in the Shanghai tunnels in San Francisco. And there was actually another psychic down there with me, and it's not like I had the full experience of being alone in the room by myself. I think it would have been way more intense if that had happened. I didn't personally have any real experiences other than just vibes while I was down there, but it was kind of short, and it wasn't like a true experiment like what we were doing with other people, I wouldn't say. But the other experiments I was involved in, I would add aura photography so they would be on my sensor, which has a simulation around their body. And they would say, oh, something touched my stomach. And you would literally see black holes appear. And every time someone had an experience, their aura would drop from whatever their baseline color was down to red, which is fight or flight. So, and you could just see these instantaneous results that also aligned with other sensors, say sonar or whatever else we had going on around them. So it was so interesting. I feel like we really did prove touch.
Yeah. Was there a feeling that came along with this experience?
Oh, definitely. We went to some very, very haunted places. Bushy Mountain State Penitentiary in Tennessee. Those walls talk like no other I've ever been to. And that's where we caught the scratch from the scientist that worked on this case. When he talked rudely to the spirits, he didn't really believe in this stuff, and then it scratched him.
And they scratched him.
Yeah. And I was the one there with him when that happened. I actually heard it. And I've had many experiences in my life, but I was just like, can we go now?
Right.
Yeah, it was really intense.
And are these continual experiences?
I still do some investigating. I don't like investigating. It's not like I'm trying to hunt ghosts. I more like to clear the energy, especially if there's kids in the home. I don't like to leave babies in a terrified state, for sure. Or even adults. I like to just make everything better. I don't like to think about energy being stuck or trapped anywhere. Right. I want to get it home. I send everything home with love. So if I am involved with something, Parasense was to prove touch and validate experiences for others that can make you feel crazy. And then when I'm involved in anything through my own work, it's more to clear energy, put everything back where it's supposed to go. You know, the longer it's trapped on the other side, the less energy source it has to make it there. So I like to create that channel, and then I send it home with love.
Is there a process? I mean, you kind of described it, but any sort of ritual that you go through, any special potions that you carry or anything like that?
You don't need anything but your heart.
So you don't need sage?
But I do. Well, it's kind of whatever I feel drawn to do for each particular case. I do some mental imagery. The reason that is so cool to me is that you can use air, earth, water, fire, or spirit. spirit is this realm of ideas, imagination, the heavenly realms, and your imagination. Your imagination is your sixth sense. So if you're clearing energy and something comes to you as like, oh, do that, mental imagery is an element. I'm actually using that to shift energy. So I do mental imagery, I do stage, crystals, whatever, but you don't need anything technically. It's whatever makes you feel better, whatever helps you believe in it more, that will give more power to it.
So when we talk about thinning the veil, how would you describe that? Is it like a doorway from this world to, say, the afterlife, or what?
I think of it as we come into this world, and usually children are pretty intuitive, and then this life just starts throwing wet blankets on us. And it's peeling back those layers to where there's 7 billion bits of information hitting your brain every second, and you can't possibly consciously grasp all of that. So your brain goes for what helps you survive, essentially. And then you can tell your brain, it's a supercomputer. You can tell your brain, hey, I don't want to see a scary burned up apparition. Show me like a flash of light or ether, or just let me know, or have a knowing of this presence here with me. You can tell your brain how you want to receive that information and turn it back on. You can create new neural pathways. So when something happens, you say, yes, thank you, brain, more of that. Show me more of that. And you can kind of fake it till you make it too. Pretend like you saw it, thank your brain. And it'll start building those neural pathways. And it's in your imagination you're doing this, and then pretty soon it starts taking you for rides.
Interesting. So how do we go about contacting a deceased loved one?
Well, I would imagine just talking to them. I think that they can hear you. I've had a lot of validation from the other side that my brother is not only hearing me when I talk, but that he's talking to me often. Like, he loves GhostCon, and on my way here, I'll get like 50 confirmations that he's riding shotgun. Like, he'll just hit me with it one after another. Like, so on my special weekends, he shows up for sure and tells me he's there and he loves me, and I know he's watching and he's proud of me.
Is he just an observer?
No, I think he is very involved. I actually think he's the one who got that Aura photography system going for me.
Interesting. So he set you up for success.
Yeah, and he was very into all of this too. I think when I went to hypnosis school as well, we would read psychology books when we were little and like diagnose ourselves with OCD and whatnot. And so he's always been very into that stuff. So I think when I went to hypnosis school, actually it was funny when I turned on the street to go meet with the teacher to see if it was a good fit. The last road is like a mile long, and as I turned on it, a flock of geese descended upon my car and put me in the V, and I could literally reach out and touch the goose outside of my window, and he was like looking me dead in my soul, and they led me right to that hypnosis school driveway, and they flew off to the right, and I turned into the left.
That's an amazing story.
Yeah.
So Shana, tell us about how the audience can find you.
I have a website. It's auraaaboutyou.com with hyphens in between, because I didn't want to buy the other one without them.
Okay, so somebody else has the other one.
Yeah, I don't think it's in use. They're just good guessers. And then I am on Facebook under Aura About You. I'm on Instagram. I think you can find it under Aura About You, but it's Knotty Shaman, Knotty Shaman, all one word. And then any way that they can find online to get a hold of me is good with me. Phone number, email.
Shana Madsen at the Oregon Ghost Conference. We appreciate it so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll be back with our director, Rocky Smith, coming up next.
Into the paranormal. Enter at your own risk.
All right, we are back with the man responsible for this all. We all love him, and we can't wait to do it again next year. Rocky Smith. Director of the Oregon Ghost Conference. Yeah, you can applaud.
Thank you. Thank
Absolutely
you.
can applaud. So, Rocky, how was it this year? I know I'm asking you to, on very little sleep, recount the events of the weekend, but I can safely say here it looks like another successful Ghost Conference here on a blustery weekend in late March in Oregon.
Yeah, so people ask me how the weekend went. It's still going, and haven't looked at any of the financials. Still working on all the wrap-ups that you do on the last day. But it feels like this year went smooth. Every year we have improve on things. We do better on things. We add things. So it's a learning experience, and every time you do an event, you hope it gets closer to the vision that you have of what it's going to be. And most of my life, I've planned a lot of events, and I've always had a vision in my head what the event's going to look like the weekend of, and it usually never does meet that. But no one knows that because they don't know the vision in my head. Every year, the vision gets closer to where it's supposed to be and what I want it, and this year is no exception. It's better and better every year. It's so close to the event that I have envisioned and want it to be, but we're still going to improve it, and we're going to still continue to learn from it and grow this event.
It's amazing how many people locally in the Pacific Northwest region, Oregon, Washington, even up maybe British Columbia, California, but people really come from all over the place.
Yes, we had a pair of people I met that actually flew from the UK to be here this weekend. So I'm shocked. In fact, I went to meet them. I took photos with them. And as a director and person in charge of an event like this, you don't get to have a lot of time to talk to people. Like on the last couple of days, I try to make an effort to talk to some of the vendors and talk to people. But on some of the investigations last night and events where I got a chance to kind of sit off the side and watch, I asked people, so, where are you from? What brought you here? Oh, this is my first time, or this is my second time, or whatever. What did you think of it? Because I hardly ever get that opportunity. And so having a conversation with people off the side to say, what brought you here? I don't get to do that enough, and I tried to really make an effort at doing that yesterday. And I was just so excited to hear from people. I've talked about this many times. When you plan an event, it's such a structured kind of planned thing, and you think in your mind, I'm planning this event. You never realize until later talking to people how much that it actually affects people. Like, I mean, literally, and we're talking to Pete where he said, going to the Ghost Conference had this experience that kind of changed
his life.
And it happens to so many people. That's not something that you think about when you start planning a vendor conference or a speaker conference or an event, but it happens. And so it's built a community that has had a ripple effect that we really didn't, I don't think, have fully ever understood and still don't. And I think that is pretty incredible.
I almost think of you as the gatekeeper of all things paranormal in the Pacific Northwest.
Wow.
I mean, there really is. No, seriously.
That is a huge compliment.
There really
and
is.
I don't even think I could accept that compliment.
I mean, there is nobody else that on snap of a finger can riddle off story after story after story. Like if I said, look across the street at that building right there, you would probably be able to tell me a story of that. If I said, go down that back
but
hallway.
I don't think I'm going to tell you the story about the Holiday Inn, but there is a story, and I do know it. So yeah, that's true.
I mean, you should have written a book by now, but with what time?
Exactly. So I have 2 or 3 books in my head. Of course, one of them or 2 of them or 3 of them are Oregon City alone. I would like to write a book about the Ermatinger House, which is really the house that in Oregon City that started this whole thing. So the best I have done is I've also found out that, and I hope people aren't offended by this, but a lot of authors, they write books that include other people's stories.
Right.
And put their name on it. Maybe I need to do that. So I haven't written my own book, but I've contributed to a lot of other authors' books with my stories. And so there's a couple books that I am in, but I do really want to write my own book or two at some point. But, I have 3 or 4 jobs, and writing a book is not something I'm going to get to right away.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about hundreds of stories just from, Oregon City, right?
I actually kind of say this frequently, and people think I'm joking. I just by sitting and jotting down every place in Oregon City that I know a ghost story, it's probably 100 locations in Oregon City that I have, and it's more than just, we heard a couple noises. There's real stories that I know, and to take a town of the size of Oregon City and say 100 places are haunted, I mean, I don't think people believe it when I say that, but I can write the list, and I've done this, and so going back and trying to document and write all those and keep track of all the stories. A lot of them are in my head. Sometimes I write them onto paper to keep them and notes and stuff, but trying to organize all the things that I have researched over the years is a lot of time.
I mean, when you look at Oregon City, we're talking about a very, very rich history. This was the
incredible.
First city, the end of the Oregon Trail.
And I say this a lot, and people here at Seaside are like, oh my gosh, he talks a lot about Oregon City.
That's where it started.
But it started, and I said I'm lucky to have grown up in Oregon City because I learned Oregon City's history. And guess what? By knowing Oregon City's history, I know Seaside's history, right? Because when the conference was asked to move here by the city, they said, well, do you know the history here? I said, well, no, I need to learn some of it and know what haunted places and build a relationship with the community, because people don't tell you ghost stories unless they feel like they can trust you and you're part of the community. This town now is telling me their stories because I'm part of this town almost like I am Oregon City. But what happens is you kind of build that over time, and now I've lost track of what I was thinking. Darn it.
The history of Oregon City.
Well, yeah, thank you. The history of Oregon City. I've got 2 hours of sleep the last 2 nights. Learning the history of Oregon City gives you the connection. So when I started looking at Seaside, Seaside was founded essentially, not founded, but Ben Holiday built a seaside home. Ben Holiday was kind of the baron of the railroad transportation system, which was started in a competition to build the railroads from Portland to Oregon City. And Ben Holiday, when we say built the railroads, didn't. The Chinese laborers built the railroads, and Ben Holiday made a fortune. And the two railroad companies were competing to build a railroad line essentially connecting Oregon City and Portland. And as you probably know, Oregon City was the big city, not Portland. Right. So basically the two companies said, well, whoever reaches Oregon City with the railroad line first takes over the railroad. And that was Ben Holiday. He made a fortune. So he builds a massive house here in Seaside, which he turns into a hotel or seaside home, which is what gives Seaside its name. And so, therefore, knowing Oregon City's history and making that connection, I know Seaside's history and how to start that. And so knowing Oregon City's history is essentially knowing the entire West Coast history.
Yeah, there's a direct correlation there. All right, we're going to pause for just a short moment, and we'll be back with Rocky Smith, director of the Oregon Ghost Conference.
All right, here we go. No, it's great.
All right, we are back live at the Oregon Ghost Conference. Rocky Smith, director, with us, talking about all things paranormal here in Seaside and also in Oregon City. You actually took a night off from doing a ghost tour to teach a class about some of these mysteries.
Actually, so Friday night I did a main event. It wasn't just a class. I mean, it was a...
I'm sorry. Main event.
Yeah.
Because you're a star.
I did a class.
Again, you're the gatekeeper of the Pacific Northwest when it comes to the paranormal.
Or it was too cheap to pay a headliner for Friday night, so I took it on myself.
Alrighty then.
So I had a talk on presentation on Friday night, and I did a class on Saturday. My main event presentation on Friday night was Histories and Mysteries of First City. Well, people are like, why do you talk about Oregon City so much? We talked about why. Oregon City is where the Ghost Conference was born, and it's where most of my knowledge is and research is, even though I know quite a bit about Seaside now. So I wanted to be able to talk about some of the ghost stories, and not just ghost stories. When people come on my tour, and when I go on a tour, I don't want to hear people say, well, they heard some creepy noises, and sometimes they see things. Okay, I mean, that's interesting,
Could be
but
anything.
I want to know, who is it? If we're talking ghost stories, why is this happening? Who is it? And why are they still there? But taking an entire city's history, narrowing it down to one building, and connecting that activity to a specific person and their name is almost impossible.
Right.
But I've done it, and other people have done it, and it helps if you live in the same town for 20, 30, 40 years, and you develop a relationship where people tell you those stories and you can make the connections. So Friday night, I was talking about, here's are the ones that I've solved. Yes, we know at the Ermatinger house that there was actually a steamboat captain. We know his name. And not only do we know his name, once we found his name, we looked up his name in the newspapers, and the newspaper articles basically fit right in with the folklore of the house of him hosting these parties at the house. I mean, that's almost impossible to do. I'm still trying to figure out who the little girl in the house is. So last night, or I keep saying that, Friday night, it was really, here's the mysteries I've solved in Oregon City in my mind of who's connected to what in history, and here's the ones I'm working on and an update on those, and here's the ones that I am just starting and still trying to open up the door to the real truth of it.
And then when you get people on the tours or here at the Ghost Conference or really anywhere that you come across anybody who's had a paranormal event and they're telling you a story, sometimes it's a light bulb goes on, right? Because it is a connection.
And people say, well, I get the question a lot, do you believe in ghosts? And I have a whole answer for that. But other people will constantly tell me ghost stories. If you're at a booth, like doing a convention, and it says ghosts, I'll be standing in it, and you know this, people start talking to you. People will tell me these stories, and some of them are just incredible. And then, but before you know it, an hour's gone by. And when I listen to people's ghost stories, I'm a skeptic from right off the start, right? Yeah. I mean, I have to take their story and listen to their perspective and understand it, because, wow, that's a cool story. But I don't give it a lot of credit. I kind of register it in my head as a thought, and then maybe a year goes by. Sometimes I jot these things down, especially if it's in Oregon City where I'm on a tour and people have experienced things. And I'll make little notes. That's the worst part. I do little notes on pieces of paper. Sometimes I record things on my phone, but I'm horrible at keeping that organized. But it's important to try that, because what happens is 5 years later, someone will tell you the same story about the same house, and they had no connection. And you're like, oh my gosh, that can't be coincidental. I have students over the years that I've been teaching, 28 years, that have told me stories about the house they live in, and I can say, you know what, 5 years ago, another one of my students lived in that same house and said the same thing. Now, that's amazing. And so that goes then from just someone's generic story that could be anything to there's something more to this.
Right.
And so that is what I'm fascinated about. I can't stop it. Like, I am so intrigued by that.
You know, respect in life goes a long way. We should consider the same when we're talking about ghosts. I know you're very passionate about that.
Absolutely. Give you an example. So the respect thing to me of the time and the place and the people, I'm a passionate preservationist of historic buildings. When the buildings are gone, the stories are gone. And those buildings represent people and their stories. And so when we start demolishing old buildings, we start losing that history. That really bothers me. I come to the Ghost Conference typically dressed in period costume, as I do on my tours, and people sometimes ask, as we go on ghost tours around the world, some tour guides do that as a gimmick. They're dressed as a vampire or very gothic or whatever. That's not what it is for me. I dress to the period. I dress to respect the history of that time and the place that I'm talking about, and I'm of that time when I'm telling the stories. I've never believed that it was okay to do a ghost tour in a T-shirt and on a loudspeaker and a microphone. And it's similar when I do investigations. I don't go, and I'm not discounting people that do this, because the equipment that we use in paranormal investigations is worthy to weed out all these kind of things that may not be paranormal, but I prefer to just use my gut.
Yeah.
And that's also respecting sticking technology in, if we believe these are spirits of people, in their face, especially kid ghosts. What's your name? And all this equipment and flashing lights. Especially I've found with kid ghosts that seem to connect with me as a teacher in my whole life. Any haunted place I go.
You teach art.
I teach art at Oregon City High School. I've been there 28 years. So if I go into a haunted place, I feel that if there are kid ghosts in any haunted place, they come to me. And especially if we're in an investigation where everyone has all this equipment and cameras, and I'm standing in the side of Preston Castle was an example in California. I was with a bunch of paranormal investigators for an amazing event, and they all had all their equipment. I was sitting; it was in part of the hospital ward of the old school, and I was sitting in a wheelchair, kind of off the side. That was what was there to sit on. And I felt something next to me. I felt there was a little kid standing next to me, and I felt it was like he felt he was comfortable being there. William Becker in Oregon City.
Absolutely.
So this little boy was standing next to me by this wheelchair, because I felt that everyone else was kind of doing the questions and lights and sound and everything. I finally said, okay, I think there's someone standing next to me, which immediately got everyone that had their gadgets standing near me. And I said, you guys, back off, because not only is it making this little kid ghost, I think, uncomfortable, it's bothering me. Because, and I said, once I tap into something, I'm not going to claim I'm a psychic, but I have an ability to kind of say that I think there's someone there. And then once I acknowledge that I think there really is someone there, I can get kind of a generic feeling of what they're feeling. So all of a sudden I thought, okay, he's there. I got overwhelmed, and I said, I have to get out of this room. I went immediately out the room to the second floor. I go up the staircase, and by chance, my friend William, is sitting on the bench at the top of the stairs. As soon as I reached the top of the stairs, he said, "Who's the little boy with you?" Now,
wow.
I was like, okay, so I guess there is, right? But... Can I tell you who the little boy is or what his story is? No, I can't do that. Maybe I could if I practiced that ability at some point, but...
We have a minute left, Rocky.
Absolutely.
Anybody you want to thank? Any announcements you want to make? Anything you want to say?
Don't do that to me. I have such an amazing crew of people. Kristen Gray, who's sitting over there crying.
Yay, Kristen. Yay, Kristen.
She's the co-director of this thing. She is an amazing person and does so much work. My mom and my best friend Holly has been doing a lot of work. They run the ticket booth. My other good friend Michelle runs the merch booth. They work day and night on everything. And between us, we put this whole event on together. They don't take breaks. They don't do anything. They work day and night.
I can attest to that.
They go to sleep around 10 or 11 or whatever they get done, and then get here early in the morning, and they're still going, and they're still my friends. And it's a lot to put people through, but I love them.
So we'll talk to you March 27th through 29th next year, ladies and gentlemen, from the Oregon Ghost Conference. Good night. God bless. Here's Jason Carpenter. I remember a couple of years ago you were talking about whether or not ghosts are fat, whether or not they bring their earthly presentation here in the now to the afterlife. And you've brought up another interesting point this year, which is ghosts in the bathroom. I mean, I suppose there have been many people over the years who have died in the bathroom, and death, of course, is associated with a lot of paranormal activity. What have you found?
Well, one thing that we see when we talk about ghosts in the bathroom is that they tend to be more dynamic and, in layman terms, scarier. A lot of blood imagery, a lot of haunting as far as being scary rather than just a little girl walking through your house type of ghost.
And not to get too graphic, I'm guessing that can include bodily fluids?
It can include smells. It can include smells that you would associate with a bathroom, but a lot of blood, either blood-soaked people or blood stains in the bathroom itself.
Which you don't ever get out.
Yes, so you wipe them away and then they return. You just can't get it. A lot of times they'll just end up closing off the restroom if it's a public restroom.
And then you have to go through a restoration process probably before you can allow somebody else to occupy the space.
Yeah, you do that. There is one college that they just ended up boarding up the bathroom because they can never get it 100% cleansed of this spirit. It was easier just to build another bathroom than to try to keep reworking this one.
But does that really work with ghosts? Because ghosts travel from one room to the other, from one place to another, a house to the next, whatever the case happens to be.
Well, what's interesting is after I did this presentation, that's what I love about the Ghost Conference. I had multiple people come up to me and say why a bathroom may be particularly haunted. It could be the flowing water. Could be the old pipes. Could be that they're so wired for electricity. It could even be because tiles tend to be made out of limestone, which we know can also magnify ghostly activity. So there is something about the bathroom itself that seems to keep them there. And if they're there, they become more violent.
Well, and the bathroom is also someplace that you usually go when you're feeling bad. You may have to,
It's also a place where you feel very vulnerable. You're half dressed or completely naked if you're showering. So when something happens there, it's far harder to get out of the situation than your attic is haunted, your basement is haunted, the master bedroom is haunted. You have to use the bathroom.
Were there certain stories that you talk about?
Yeah, we talked about a couple different stories really from all around the country. We have a lot of haunted bathrooms, and we tied it together. There is a old demon called Balfagor who is associated with sloth, and you make offerings to him through a toilet. This is an ancient demon, so we wonder if that could be what's really powering this whole thing, some demonic energy.
Interesting. Jason, thanks so much for the time.
Thank you.
Jason Carpenter of Dead Rabbit Radio here at the Oregon Ghost Conference in Seaside. I'm so honored when we get to talk about something besides ghosts and the paranormal here at the Oregon Ghost Conference. It really has branched out, and kudos to Rocky Smith and the staff for allowing kind of the other fringe topics, because many will just shut it down and say if it's not ghosts or it's not paranormal, we don't want it. But as we learned on the broadcast, there's actually some comparisons, similarities, links, connections, however you want to say, between the paranormal and UFOs. And we're here with James Clarkson, a former police lawman and UFO investigator. How are you, James?
Well, I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. We've talked with you quite a few times. What did you speak about here at the Oregon Ghost Conference?
Well, I spoke about what I called the alien others. I was trying to describe the physical characteristics that are frequently reported by anybody and everybody who claims that they've encountered an alien. The abductees, people who claim to have seen small beings next to landed unknown aircraft, etc. So I basically focused on what do all these important sightings have in common.
Now, you say physical characteristics. Are these people describing like features of the extraterrestrials?
Yes. In other words, most often they are humanoid. They have bilateral symmetry. They have 2 arms, 2 legs, although they are described as often childlike with very large craniums, large almond-shaped eyes that are hypnotic, and characteristics like that.
And these characteristics come through abduction experiences, through people's recollection?
that, and also people who claim that they were present when a craft landed and they saw apparently the occupants in the immediate area.
Now, how often do UFO crashes happen anymore? Because certainly there have been those on record that we know of, but I can't remember the last one. I mean, there were drones that were supposedly crashing during this last wave, but I don't know. Do you know when the last UFO crash on record was, or any documentation as far as that is concerned?
Well, it would be a long time ago. It would be hard to assess the correct number because I think that the, shall we say, the forces of darkness are getting better at responding to a downed UFO and immediately, taking care of business, policing up the wreckage, taking care of any bodies, and then making sure that it never makes the news.
Well, perhaps they're better pilots, or perhaps the technology is just that much better.
Well, that would be assuming that the aliens are... I wouldn't even know how to assess alien technology in terms of how often they improve.
Well, if they were crashing a lot, maybe there was something that was inferior about their ships. Maybe they have found the secret that will keep them airborne and not crashing.
Well, we're not talking about that often that they crash, especially when you compare it to the number of UFO sightings. We're talking about a very small number in comparison to thousands and thousands of reported UFOs.
All right, James. So as far as UFO disclosure is concerned, there has been a new whistleblower who has come out since David Grush, who we spent some time talking about his case with you the last time we had you on the show. But now we have a gentleman by the name of Jake Barber, who has come out with video that was supposedly from a UFO crash retrieval, an egg-shaped object. Maybe not the one that he was personally involved in, but maybe one very similar. Says he was part of this top secret task force that was in charge of recovering these UFOs, and him as a helicopter pilot was involved in this. He also talked about the psionics, the telepathy that goes on between the occupants of these craft, or between the craft itself and the individual who is participating in the recovery. How do you view that story as a seasoned investigator?
Well, I'd have to interview him myself. However, I have the utmost respect for Ross Coulthart, the journalist who uncovered the story. It seems to be convincing. I haven't actually seen the, I guess what you would call curriculum vitae of Mr. Barber, but based on what I have heard and seen, I think it's a fascinating case, and he may indeed be another very important whistleblower. And I was really moved by his description that when he obtained this psionic contact, he was overcome with very strong feelings of love and compassion and sadness, as if there was some, that there's a tragic element to all of this.
Some would say maybe even a possession.
I'm not sure about, I would call it possession. I'd probably reserve judgment on that.
Well, James, always good to talk with you. Wrote a great book about the June Crane story, who was actually right behind us. Tell My Story, June Crane, the Air Force and UFOs, who was a witness to some crazy stuff at Wright-Patterson. Go back and check out our previous episodes with James Clarkson if you missed any of those. From the Oregon Ghost Conference in Seaside.
What you believe might not be. Step into the zone of the vast unknown. UFOs, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, conspiracies and cover-ups. And to the Parabnormal we go.
All right, from the Oregon Ghost Conference here in Seaside. I guess this is the after show. This is the unadvertised part of the program. I don't know how Clyde feels about that. But no. Actually, I would take that as a you get to be the main event here. Clyde Lewis from Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis.
Yeah.
Which is all over everywhere. Oh, we have the microphone down low from the previous guest. Is that going to work out for you?
That'll be fine. How am I sounding? Is that okay?
You sound fine, but it's just low.
No, it's okay. I don't mind.
All right. You good.
I don't know how to work a microphone. What do I do with it? I drop it. No.
Clyde, I learned a new word from you today.
Psychopomp.
What the heck is a psychopomp?
They're the carriers of the dead. They carry you to the other side. A psychopomp? Yeah, because I wanted to bring that word to the attention of people because it's like I said in my presentation. I was talking with somebody on the air who was like this person who was very serious about their afterlife experience. And I said, so you were met with psychopomps? And she goes, no. I go, yeah, psychopomp. You were met by a psychopomp. No. So she calls Ron, my producer, and says, what's wrong with Clyde? I've contributed to his show. I do all kinds of things, and he's making fun of me, saying that I was with a psychopomp. What the hell is a psychopomp?
Or maybe they're thinking you're saying psychopunk or something. I don't know.
It's just because, well, the first psycho and then pomp, you think of pompous. So, psychopompous means that you're a pompous psychopath. I don't know. But that's what I think she felt. But, yeah, I've learned to love that word, psychopomp. But I thought I would bring it up today because I don't think many people know the terminologies.
I just thought you saw the light. I didn't know somebody or something actually greeted you.
Sometimes, you look at the legends of Anubis, Chiron, the guy that runs the ferry, the ferryman.
Okay.
He takes you across the river Styx. He's one. Anubis is one. Sometimes people, like, for example, the Crow. Remember the comic book, The Crow? The Crow is a psychopomp because he didn't die, but he helps people in that situation. He was made through he was created through the whole idea of suicide and dying. So, yeah, he's a psychopomp too, the Crow. So. And the family. You have family that sometimes meet you on the other side. You died and then somebody's on the other side waiting for you. Oh, that's Dad. Hey, he's a psychopomp. He's not doing Ouija board duty today. He's doing psychopomp duty for me. Thank you. That's awesome, Dad. Thank you. Yeah, he's the heavenly Uber driver or the Lyft driver.
Do you think they have transportation service up in wherever we go after we die?
I bet better because, hell, I want to see you during visiting hours in hell.
Oh, likewise.
I know.
And we got to get back and forth somehow.
We write letters, that kind of thing. Yeah.
I want to see you in hell, too.
No, I want to see you in hell, too. Think of all the people that will be there. Yeah, think of all the money. Think of all the... It's like, not very many people up there in heaven, except the Mormons. They think they're there alone, so...
And this is coming from two former Mormons.
You ever heard that before, right?
No, actually.
So this guy goes up into heaven, and he's there, and the angel is giving him the tour, and you go past this door, you see all these people like yelling and screaming and celebrating, and I says, my gosh, who's that? He says, that's the Baptists, man. They're up here having a good time. Go to the next door, and you have all these people drinking wine and everything else. And, well, who are they? Those are the Catholics, and they're happy to be here too. And then the angel goes, shh, and they pass through another door. Says, who's that? He says, that's the Mormons, and they think they're the only ones up here.
All right. Clyde, you always find such interesting stuff to talk about on the ghost phenomenon, and there has been some, science throughout the years that has made what we talk about more credible. Parapsychology, as it's called.
Yeah. I think one of the things that really got me thinking was now that scientists are trying to they're trying to find more ways to they come up with something. I don't know if they call it a soul, but they call it something else, and it's like psychometry. It's another word. I can't remember the name of it, but they try to come up with this idea that everything has particles and everything has meaning and everything fits together in the particle congruency and whatever. So, and then that gets you into things like superposition and gets you into things like twin paradox universes and being in two places at once and being everywhere all at once and all these things that ghosts can do. Well, if a ghost can do it, so can you, because if you're a particle in this big scheme of things, you can be a particle with someone else's particles, and you can come together, and that's why people sometimes have relationships, is because out of all the particles that are in the universe, your particle seems to gel with another particle. When you think about relationships, you think about love.
Is that what they mean by particle physics?
Well, it's like likes attract. It's just the idea that if you were to see us as a particle, if you see yourself as a particle, see everybody in this room is a particle. Every particle seems to find its match, and sometimes opposites attract. But it's the idea, though, that if we look at ourselves as particles in the big thing, then we do have spooky actions at a distance, because sometimes we feel what other people feel and they're far away from us. Sometimes it's like you have that feeling that you've known somebody all your life. Like I've known you, Jeremy, for a little while, but I feel like I've known you for a long time, very long time, before I even met you. So, I mean, it's kind of like, we're brothers from different mothers, but in a different way. And it's because of these spooky actions at a distance that Einstein talked about, saying that we're all connected in a way. And that's why we're connected to the afterlife. We're connected to interdimensional beings. We're connected to all those things because of that.
So having said that, orbs can also be an indication that you have some sort of spirit nearby.
Yeah, because it takes one orb to appear, but several orbs to make an apparition. So, I mean, it takes several, molecules and particles and protons, electrons, and neutrons to make a human being, and then you have the same thing happen with someone else, and it just continues. It's a continuing thing.
So when people are seeing these orbs and then experiencing something that they may deem paranormal, say either seeing an apparition or hearing a ghostly voice or something, there may be something to that.
Well, sure. I mean, if things can use all. I mean, we're all light, really. I mean, everything's based on light. We see with light. We experience things with light. Light has a sound. Light has a frequency. So if all of a sudden the frequencies change and you're able to see a certain type of light, you'll be able to see a certain type of spirit. Mm-hmm. So and it's not to say that we don't have interloping and we don't have overlap. Where, let's say, for example, when you look at a pot of boiling water, for example, okay, you see the little bubbles roil in the water. Sometimes those bubbles roll over each other and roll over each other and roll over each other. That's how we are in our parallel universes. Sometimes the existences blend with each other, and this is where we get ghosts. This is where we get UFOs. This is where we get, encounters with Bigfoot. It's all because of the fact that there is another second Genesis, if you will, that was made the same time as our first Genesis, and it's playing along right next to us, and we just don't even know it because we don't have the ability to see it, but we do know that there's something more out there, and we don't know if what we're doing in this universe is affecting several other universes.
So when this stuff manifests, it has the ability to manipulate electronics, and that's why people are actually seeing this stuff on their phones or getting text messages or emails or even Facebook messages from people who are deceased.
We're learning that we live in an electric universe, okay? And we need to go back to Immanuel Velikovsky and figure out what he was trying to say, I believe, because, I mean, if Immanuel Velikovsky was talking about an electric universe and now they're saying everything is going to be electric, that tells me something about the universe. It tells me something that, gravity may be magnetics more than gravity, that, we're being held here because we have ferrous in our blood, and ferrous is attracted to magnetics, and magnetics, we have a magnetic ball underneath us that's turning around. We have a magnetic ball above us that's keeping us on the planet. So, I mean, it's all about electromagnetics. It's all about particles and how they work together and fissure together to make what we are.
Question is about Nikola Tesla, and also where do EVPs come from? And I think that is the spirit trying to communicate with us.
Well, EVPs come from a number of things. They come from background noise, because, of course, ghosts don't have voices or vocal cords. So what they have to do is they have to transmit their thoughts on sounds. So you hear like a rub and it sounds like something, or you hear a wind pass over and you hear something, or, and that's the EVP. People can say, well, it's audiodolia. What's the pareidolia? It's audiodolia. I don't know if they call it audiodolia. But I'm just saying, so you're hearing things well, of course you are, but that's the point. If your mind can pick it up and you get a message and it's loud and clear, why are you questioning it? I mean, well, it's just, no. It's like if you see an image that looks like a face, and it's undoubtedly a face, why do you say, well, it's pareidolia? It's because you don't want to believe that there's something outside of you. You don't want to believe that there's something outside of the regular belief system, so you immediately write it off as pareidolia, you write it off as something that you're imagining. But if it does sound it loud and clear, it's like Okay, let's say, for example, if EVP doesn't exist, and let's say I caught an EVP of a ghost saying the F word. Do you think I could play that on the radio?
No.
Of course not. Why? Because you hear the word, the F word, being spoken by something, but then you can say, give the argument, well, hey, if EVP doesn't exist, then this F word doesn't exist. All right? So, so that means I can play this because you don't think EVPs exist. It's just pareidolia or audiodolia or whatever you want to call it. So let's play some audiodolia that is not there, but you heard it. See, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Ghost boxes.
Yes.
How do those work? And is that actual deceased spirits coming through?
Ghost boxes are, they're another, Tesla had one, Edison had one. I think ghost boxes are a mixture of random and what we'd call taking random stuff and putting it into order. So when you're listening to a ghost box, if you're listening to the skipping of frequencies, that if words come together like that in a sentence, then you're picking up on it, you're hearing the message. But that's if the message is really there. You're not just imagining the message. Some people hear, did you hear that? No, I just heard a rainbird sound. But if you really hear a sound in there, something talking, and I remember one time we had an EVP that was coming over one of those sounds, and it was a number of things were making the sentence, and one of them was Ozzy Osbourne singing Crazy Train. And
that's going to sound creepy.
Yeah, it was weird. And I said, oh, that's Ozzy Osbourne. I go, well, yeah, but it was Ozzy and then something else after it that was sounding like a message. It's just a game. And, it can be built on nothing but, our brains putting together random things, or there could be some reality to it. And the thing is if they're sending messages that mean something to you, then it means something to you. It's a synchronicity then, is it not? If you hear something and say, oh, by the way, this message means something to me. We used to do a thing called the Black Cube. And that was one of the greatest inventions we ever had. Too bad we can't use it anymore because the guy that we used it with basically went off and did his own thing. But we didn't want to rip off his intellectual property. But that was one of the greatest times ever because we used to go out, we do that at this ghost conference, we do the Black Cube. One time we had a guy from Russia that was listening to the Black Cube, and he wanted to call out to his mother. And all of a sudden, the Black Cube started going, something like that. And I said, did you hear somebody? He says, yes, I heard my mother say, I love you in Russian. I said, are you sure? He goes, oh, yeah, I heard it. And then some other guy was in the audience who was Russian. He says, I heard it too. And I'm going, well, who am I to question Russian? It all sounds like Russian. Even death metal sounds like Russian if you're not careful. But it was just fascinating to me that people's brains can put these things together and get meaning out of them. And regardless of whether or not people say, well, it could be anything. Well, yeah, it could be anything. Yeah, that's the point. It's something that people understand and interpret as meaningful to them. Who am I to tell you that it's not real? It's like I had some guy complain about this picture that was sent to me by Marshall Barnes. He was saying to me, he said, oh, that just looks like one more blob that Clyde's trying to get ratings for, showing us, the picture I showed. And I wrote him back and I said something to the effect that says, yeah, we're investigating whether or not you were conceived at a family reunion. That was just me being an ass. But anyway, and I can be. But what's that? Yeah, I can be that way with a cousin. Relative humidity and all that. Okay, where am I? So anyway, but what pisses me off about that is that, people say, well, it's just a blob and blah, blah. Okay, well, if you think it's just a blob, then how is it that a scientist who doesn't believe in ghosts, who doesn't believe in any of this stuff, say, something was in my laboratory, Clyde. I don't know what it was, and here's a picture.
Yeah, anybody can make that claim, but very few are able to actually provide the evidence, which is what Marshall did.
And then to have Marshall say, don't call it a ghost. Well, what else is it? He goes, it's not a ghost. He says, the scientists say it's not a ghost. It was a non-human intelligence.
Blob.
I'm going, huh?
The blob? I don't know.
I don't know. But he just didn't want it to be called a ghost. And I said, why is that? He says, I have a hard time with this whole element of spirituality and God. Okay, so if you have a hard time with spirituality and God, what do you call it? Non-human intelligence. So that's going to have to be the fall for everything if you don't believe in God. Say, well, what are we dealing with here? Non-human intelligence. We're dealing with particles that are coming together randomly to make something. What are we but particles that came together randomly in our mother's womb? One cell. That's all it took. And we're like a million cells, and we're like all these synapses and bones and whatever. A miracle of God, a miracle of the world. And people don't want to believe in miracles, like these particles can create sounds, or they can create things from beings from some dimension or other dimension. I mean, come on. It's not hard to think about.
What
really.
does paranormal mean? It means something that is not
normal. Right.
Or in this case, it's parabnormal. And thank you so much, Clyde, for joining us here from the Oregon Ghost Conference.
Thank you.
Good night. God bless.